Hello, my name is Mark, and I thank you so much for coming by today. Well, as you can see behind me here, spring is about to burst. It's a little chilly out here still, but it's the good kind of chilly, the kind of chilly that you can be outside, maybe wear a light jacket or no jacket, and not be freezing, but at the same time, it's very comfortable. So I love this time of year. It's my favorite time of the year. Spring has sprung. Actually, I love fall too, and I love winter and I love summer. But what I want to talk about is one-line drawing. It's a fun little technique that I do. I don't know if other people do this, but this is something that I do to pass the time, especially when I'm traveling. If I just am bored and I want to try something that's fun and fresh and challenging to myself. So let's talk about this one-line drawing technique, and if it's something for you. It might actually open some doors to your creativity and even your style, and that's another thing I'll talk about when we get into the video. So thanks for coming by today. Come on along. You can hear the geese chirping out there. It's a wonderful time of year, and again, I'm glad you're here. Come on along. When I was teaching college and even high school art classes, one of the first things that we would do in class is we would do our little warm-ups. And our warm-ups were basically just drawing geometric shapes, circles, squares, triangles, that kind of stuff. And we would draw them over and over for a certain period of time, usually 5 minutes or so, and then we move on to other projects. I actually have a video called The 5-Minute Workout for Artists, which talks about this and more. I'll put a link for that down below. But here you can see in this video, I'm doing that same kind of warm-up exercise with this gel pen. The first row is just loose kind of drawing with the pen, taking it off the paper to make different marks. The second row here, I'm doing the same thing where I'm still lifting the pen off the paper to try to capture that basic geometric shape. But now in this third row, this is where I'm going to put the pen down and not take it off the paper. This is a one-line drawing technique. It's a technique that I usually do when I'm just relaxing, or if I'm at a bus station or waiting for a train or something. It's just something that I do for fun, and I really enjoy it. You can apply it to these geometric shapes, the basic geometric shapes, or you can expand it to the more three-dimensional shapes like a cube or a sphere or a cone. And that's what I'm doing here. So here's again the scribbled version where I can take the pen off the paper just to get the gesture down. And now I'm going to try and do it without taking the pen off the paper. Now you can go over the same lines. It's not like this is a puzzle or a trick. You can do that. But what you're trying to do is keep the pen on the paper and keep the ink flowing. So if I'm going to add some shadow or some value to a drawing without taking the pen off, you have to figure out how to do it. And that's a great thing about this, is it's about problem solving. It's about finding a way to create an image and make it recognizable and communicate with only one line. You're just drawing that one line. It's a consistently moving line that you just don't take off the paper, and you keep it going. Keep that ink moving, keep that pencil graphite going, and see if you can achieve what you're trying to achieve. It's a lot of fun once you start doing it and once you get into it, and I highly recommend trying it out and see if it works for you. Here I'm doing a boat floating on the water, and you can see that I go back over the lines that I've already done to keep myself from pulling the pen off the paper. And that's the whole point of this, is make that little boat, and you can see it's a little boat floating on the water with some birds. Just like this figure I'm drawing here of a person standing there, I'm just doing sort of an outline, kind of a gesture drawing, not really a gesture, but kind of a gesture of a person standing there. Again, only using one line, keeping to that, not taking the pen off the paper, to see if I can capture the image and really make this look like something. It's not hard to do. It's not like a fancy thing. It's just a technique that can actually change the way you think about drawing, and it can change how your style evolves. So if you have a style that you've been working in and you do it over and over, I would suggest trying a technique like this to see how it might change your style a little bit. It may be something that you can incorporate when you do future renderings or future drawings, and it might be something fun to try. It might not be something you want to do at all. For me, it doesn't have to be complicated. You can make it as simple as this little bucket here, where it's just a few lines going back and forth, and it's recognizable as a bucket. It doesn't have to be complicated. Or it can be as complicated as you want it to be. Here I'm going to do this sort of like this little alpaca type creature here. And you can do it as much as you want. This is a little bit more liberating because the squiggly lines are a lot easier to work with. What I like to do though is I like to draw on a piece of watercolor paper, create this kind of a drawing using that one line drawing technique, and then save it for later and maybe add color to it. Now here I'm using a Copic multiliner, which I really love these pens. These are great pens. They work really well on either Bristol or watercolor paper, it doesn't matter. Now the image I'm using as a reference was created in Adobe Firefly. That means it's AI, so it's not a real image, but it's a great image to use because it doesn't really exist. I can create the reference image based on my prompt, which was a red bucket sitting on an old picnic table with a creeping Jenny plant spilling out onto the table. So that's the prompt I use, and that's what I got. Because that's what I wanted to draw today. I wanted to draw this plant. Because this is a great example of how this works. So again, it's one line. I put the pen down to the paper and I don't pull it off until I'm ready and until it's finished. So here I'm just making one continuous line going back over lines that I've already drawn to add in more shapes. The key to this is that it's kind of like a puzzle in the sense of you're building something, trying to fit shapes in where they can. Now, I'm not going exactly leaf for leaf on this plant. I'm just using it as a loose reference. But you can see that it's a lot of fun to draw this way, and I really enjoy it. So it's one of those things, like I said, if I'm in a position where I'm in a coffee shop or maybe I'm at an airport or something and I just want to draw for a little while, I'll find something to draw, whether it's a person sitting on a chair reading a book, or maybe it's a trash can that's overflowing over by, one of the gate entrances or something. Anything that catches my eye that's interesting. This technique is kind of fun as a challenge to see if I can do it in one line. And you can see here that it's not impossible. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be correct. It just has to be enjoyable. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm having a great time just kind of fitting these pieces together, adding some twigs and some leaves here and there, and seeing where I can make this thing compositionally sound. And that's the beauty of it, is I can keep adding to it and I can keep moving with it as long as I don't take the pen off the paper. And that's the trick, is can you do it? And can you make it look interesting that way? So here I'm done. I'm going to add on some of these Schminke super granulating colors and just add some color in. Now, I could have put this away for a week or a month or even a year and left it black and white and come back to it later to paint, because I love to do that. That's one of the things, if you went through my sketchbooks, I have so many uncolored drawings that I've done, because for me, they're like coloring books. I can come back anytime and just add those in. Now, with the color that I'm adding, you can do a sort of like the one line technique where you can just put down a brush and keep moving it. I don't want to do that here. I'm just having fun adding the colors so you can see what it looks like when you're done. So this is how you can have this kind of a drawing, this one line drawing in a sketchbook, and you can come back to it later, whether using watercolor pencils and coming in later with those, or you're using something like these Schminke paints and use a real expensive paint. You can use cheap paint, whatever you want. This is just a fun, unique way of doing things. And again, it may change the way you look at your own style and the way you draw your own pictures. Maybe this is something that's worth trying for you to see, hey, can I do this one line drawing and make it work for me? Now, if this was an architectural drawing and I had buildings, it would take a lot longer, and it's a lot more challenging to do that with just one line. I know a lot of people like to do what they call urban sketching or urban drawing. We used to just call it just freestyle drawing, and you just go out into nature and just draw what you see, whether it's trees or buildings or people in a crowd. But now the term urban sketching is very popular, and I love to do urban sketching. I've been doing that since I was young. And if you're going to do an architectural rendering, it is a lot more complex because you're dealing with windows, you're dealing with buildings and cars and people and trees and all kinds of things. And they're all very geometric and they're all in perspective. So that's a lot more challenging. What I also like to do is use my own reference photos. Here I was in an art gallery about maybe a year ago, and I was taking pictures of different art, and there was some interesting people. These four women were standing having a conversation, and I was trying to get a picture of some art in that room, but they were standing there. So I said, you know what? That makes an interesting composition right there, these four people. So here I'm using my own photo as a reference, and I'm going to draw these people. Now, Again, this is one line. It's just me with a Posca marker here this time. And I'm going to draw these four people standing there. They have very interesting positions that they're standing in, very common positions, but I'm going to try to capture them in just one line. And that's the whole challenge here. The fun of this is that I can go on and use this drawing as a reference for another drawing later if I want. I can use the characters or their just their postures or whatever. So when you're doing life drawing, you would normally do a gesture. So this one line technique does not allow for a gesture drawing. So I can't capture the essence of the form of these figures, whether they're in an action pose or whether they're standing there posing with like this woman with her phone. You can't get that gesture down. So you have to kind of create the gesture as you're going along. So this does have that sort of flavor of urban sketching, but it's with one line. And that's, again, what I love to do. So I hope this is an interesting video for you. This technique, I didn't invent this technique. I don't know who did, but it's been around for a long time. And it is sort of just a technique I used to teach to students to get warming up and say, okay, let's draw for 5 minutes without taking your pen off the paper and see what you can come up with. So using a reference is a lot of fun because I can use this picture and just use it as a loose reference. And like I said, once I'm done with this drawing, I can go back and add color to it. I can add a background to it if I want, add a whole scene behind them if I want, or I can take this drawing and now leverage this as the reference for a new drawing. And maybe that's something that is of interest to you as well, because once you get into that realm, you can draw anything you want and it's always fun. Now, this drawing that I did was a reference from that group of people. That was not a one-line drawing. Whereas this plant, I really like this. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I hope you had fun watching it. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll bring you more content like this in the future. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments on how you do this kind of artwork down below, so leave your comments down below. I hope you're doing great. Thank you again for coming by, and as always, take care, and God bless.